All right, Metal Maniacs, it's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. Very, very excited tonight. I am chatting with the indelible Mr. Ken Pike of Absolon. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Very good. Yeah, I got a frosty brew, and I'm talking to a amazing vocalist, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited to be chatting with you.
I brought the coffee.
Nice, nice. Yeah, can't go wrong with coffee. Um,
I,
so man, I have lots of questions for you, but I'm trying to figure out where to even start. I guess we'll start with so your most recent album, the Portrait of Madness, which I have a copy right. Let me see if I can hold it correctly. So without a glare, got a copy of the CD right here from of course No Life Till Metal Records. Came out earlier this year. What an absolute amazing album. I
Thank you.
I adore it. It's such a joy to listen to. It's so it just every time I listen to it, there's new things I find, new elements that I hear. And it's one of those albums that I think just grabs you from the get go anyway. But yeah, I've been really enjoying this album quite a bit. So I was
Cool.
curious, and it's a concept album. For those that have not heard it, it's a concept album. Really interesting, fascinating subject matter about a World War One vet who seemingly has shell shock, but turns out he's actually has brought home a dark entity that's basically possessed him. And I won't ruin the story, but just a cool idea and a fascinating story. And I was really curious, kind of the impetus of that. Like, where did that come from? Like, where did the story come from? What kind of prompted you to do this?
Oh, well, the I'm me and my wife both we're both big horror movie fans.
Hmm.
Um, I I grew up on horror movies and ghost stories and stuff like that. So uh, the the idea for the concept um, actually came from when I after I wrote the first song, the first full song, and it for some reason, as I was reading, the lyrics, it kind of came to me that there could be a story here. I just got to think of one.
Hmm.
I swore that I would never do another concept album because Absalon's debut album was. Oh, did we freeze again?
Yeah, we're it's a little like for some reason our audio seems okay, but like, yeah, we're both kind of
Yeah.
freezing up.
Oh, well, I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, so the our date Absalon's debut album was also a concept album, and that thing took me forever to write and get recorded, and I swore I'd never do another one after that. And so initially, this album was just going to be songs. I wasn't. I had no intention of doing another concept album,
Right.
but as I started writing the songs and they started connecting, um, this idea popped into my head about this character in World War One. I like war movies. Also, I love the history of World War One and World War Two. So I got to thinking, how can I combine the two things that I like? And so I took the idea of him being a World War One soldier, an English instead of American, making him an English soldier, and him, being on the battlefield, and everyone's dying around him. He's young, and he doesn't want to die. And then this entity, some people want to call it a demon, uh, basically comes to him, whispers in his ear that if you'll take me in, um, then I'll save you. You'll make it through this. So of course he does, and so there's the war and the horror combined. And then of course he gets back home after the war, and people start realizing there's something really wrong with this guy, and that he is possibly possessed. And they call the church in, and the Catholic Church in, to do an exorcism. The exorcism fails. They can't get rid of the demon. And this is, of course, in what did I say? I think 1920 or whatever. And so the church didn't want to have, a black eye. So they put him in an asylum to kind of conceal their failure. And the doctors and the nurses and everyone, the staff that worked in the asylum, of course, didn't believe him when he was telling them, look, this isn't in my mind. I'm not crazy. I'm possessed.
Right.
And so finally, at the end, he reconciles basically with the demon, accepts that the demon's part of him, and together they break out of the asylum, which really was a prison for him, and escape into the night. Of course, they massacred all the staff.
Yeah, well, if it's a horror, yeah, you've got to have, have a little blood.
Yeah, they pretty much decimated the staff and the doctors and everything. So anyway, so that's how it all came about. I don't know how the story just popped into my head one night, and then the songs thereafter I wrote specifically going in the direction of the story.
Nice. That's cool. That's really cool. I love it. And and so the band, your band Absolon, so is you, your wife, who plays piano and keyboards and does the orchestration, and then German guitarist Mark Vanderberg plays all the guitars and the bass as well. And I think you guys have created just a really fascinating, really mesmerizing album. Like I said before, I mean, the first time I heard it, it really floored me. It really blew me away. I was, really excited by it. It sort of has, and I hate to do this because I know this happens to you all the time, the comparisons with Queensryche, but it does have a bit of a Queensryche vibe to it, in terms like those early Queensryche albums. But at the same time, it's definitely its own thing, which is cool. I really enjoy it a lot. Now, and I was curious about, so I know, and you and I were chatting prior to the interview starting, and I know you did and I normally don't do this. Whenever I'm going to interview somebody, I try not to watch other interviews, with my guests beforehand. However, we're both mutual friends with Wayne Noon of Rat Salad, and I watched that interview, which was a great interview, by the way. So I'm going to piggyback on a few things that he touched on.
Sure.
So my apologies, Wayne, and also my thanks to Wayne. And it's a great, for those of you watching, check out Rat Salad and check out the interview with Ken on that. It's excellent. I know you guys chatted a little about, you were working on new material. You're already in the, even though you just recently released an album, you're already, on the get-go with new material, new stuff going on, and which is not a concept album, I believe you said.
No.
Yeah. So what's going on with that? What's happening with the new material, and it kind of, do you have a, maybe it's too early at this point. Do you have kind of a date that you're pushing for a release, or?
I actually just finished up writing the last song for the album the other night. This one is not going to be a concept album. It's going to be really more straight ahead, if you want to call it traditional heavy metal. I tell people it's going to be Queensryche meets Judas Priest, and because of the way I sing, I can't get around I can't sound like Rob Halford, but I sound like Jeff Tate. but the musically, it's going to be it's very traditional, in your face, straight ahead, heavy metal. No concept going on. It's just different songs, kind of eclectic. So whatever I was thinking in my head when I wrote it, lyric wise, I just like songs about vampires and monsters and
Cool.
just a bunch of different stuff. So all the songs are written. And the next part of the process is I record. We have a home studio, so I record the scratch tracks, the vocal and guitar scratch tracks, and I mean they're really raw scratch tracks. Send those to Mark, and then Mark does his thing, arrangement wise. I've given him total freedom to, if he hears a different arrangement or something that will make the song better, it's like, I tell him, go for it, do what you want. So he'll do that, and then of course record all the guitars. This one is going to be very guitar dominated, kind of like Judas Priest. It's going to be very wall of guitars, and vocally, there's going to be a lot more vocally going on. I'm going to do a lot more harmonies and backing vocals and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I'll be singing higher on this one. That's the only problem that I have with the new album, listening back to it, is for some reason, I don't know why, all the songs are kind of in a low to mid range, and I throw in a few high, metal screams or whatever, but I can sing a lot higher. So this next one, I'm going to be singing more in the range, traditional heavy metal range, like a Rob Halford or Tate. Of course, I can't hit the notes I used to hit in the 80s. I had a 4.5 octave range back then.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I could back then. I could sing any Queensryche song back then because I could hit those notes. But you get older, and you can't hit those notes quite as well. So I'm not going to be singing quite that high, but it's still going to be higher than this last one. So I think it'll be more enjoyable. So that's the process. It goes to Mark. When he's all done with his stuff, then it'll be sent to Joel to lay down the drums. Then it'll come back to us, and my wife Rio. I'm not going to. This isn't going to be prog like the newest one. This is going to be a lot less on the orchestration and the the progginess stuff going on, but there'll still be some of that. There's I love that sound. So she'll do her thing, and then the very last thing is then I'll record all the vocals in that. I'm thinking I've got Alex, the singer for Severed Angel, has agreed to do some backing vocals for me. So cool. Yeah, because he can, he's a lot younger than me, so he can still hit some of those really super high notes, and I'd like to have on harmonies, some higher harmonies that maybe I just can't do. So hopefully I'll be having him do that. So then I guess I'd send it to him to do his thing. Then he's also because I'm sure he's an engineer. He mixes and masters and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So he'll be engineering the album when it's all finished. He'll be mixing and mastering and everything.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I love the sound that he got on their album. It's a really good production. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of where it's at right now, though. I would like to be releasing it maybe by the end of the year, but I'm not rushing this one. I kind of rushed the last one. This one, you know, when it gets done, it gets done. If it's more the early part of or first part of next year, whenever, I just want it to be totally killer. So no rush in this one.
Cool, cool. Will your wife Rio be doing the album cover as well? I know she did the album cover for the last album.
Yeah, she did all the graphics on that album. Um, the front, inside, the tray, back of the tray, and then the back of the CD. She did all the graphics, and then Scott Waters, from No Life Till Metal, he did the booklet and everything. He did the layout.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then kind of refined some of the lettering, the verbiage on the back of the album and that. So I might have Scott Waters do the front cover because he's really good. Or yeah, have my wife do all the graphics on the next one too, and see what she comes up with.
Nice. Yeah, I love what she did with a portrait. I think it's that's a kill. It's probably hard to see on here on video, but that is a great cover. I love it. And the interior work and all that graphics that she did, I thought that turned out really well and really captures the themes and I think the vision of the album in a lot of ways.
I agree. I think if if you know the storyline, then looking especially at the front cover, it kind of says it all. The guy in a straight jacket and the demon thing behind him, and you go, oh, okay, that the front cover makes sense.
Yeah.
And then on the side of the tray picture, where actually the demon and the guy is kind of melding into one, so yeah, she's really, my wife is my time to brag about my wife. Is I always say she's got more talent in her pinky than I got in my whole body. She composes music for TV and film. She writes her own did her own music. She does graphics. She does video. The videos that you've seen, she did those.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she does everything. Just an extremely talented individual. So I'm really lucky, that. And then when I go to record my vocals, and then she records her stuff, she records it all. So I don't have to go to a studio and spend several $1,000s, and so I'm pretty fortunate.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. I was curious with at this point, Absolon is, you and your wife and Mark. Are you able to, have you thought about putting together a band to do live, any sort of live shows or at all? Is that something you are looking at doing at all?
I don't know. Of course, when I first started Absolon in Florida, after I put out the debut CD, I did have a band, and we played a lot and built a really pretty big following in Florida, playing in most of the big clubs and packing out places and stuff like that. And it was a great band, and I love performing live. It's kind of like I live for being on the stage. I hate the recording process. I enjoy writing songs, but I hate recording. It's for me being, of course, wasn't in a studio for the last one, but for me, being in a recording studio, I used to just hate it. After a while, I just like, I'm bored. I don't want to be here, but it's a necessary evil to put something
Right.
out. But I would love to play again. I'd love to get on the stage again. But I don't know. It's so difficult. Trying to put a live band together, and then trying to find, a guitar player that can play what Mark plays.
Yeah.
Because Mark is he's an incredible guitar player. Kind of in the Yngwie, Europe vein of and that's why I wanted him to work on my music, because I wanted that European sound. Anyway, so I don't know. It might, and then I don't know how we replicate, all the orchestra stuff in the songs. The debut album, we didn't have as much, heavy orchestrated stuff. So we were able to play the full songs from the album live. And I had a great group of musicians. I mean, just really talented musicians behind me. So we were able to do it, but I don't know how we'd replicate this one unless we did what they call stems, and then, pre-recorded stuff. And that's a real pain in the butt live.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the spontaneity and the fun out of playing live. So I don't know. Maybe. That was a long way around to say maybe.
No, that's cool. I mean, it's something I was curious. I was, because I know that you're especially in your past bands, you were always, you're a live performer. And I've heard you say that before in interviews, that you enjoy playing live. But yeah, as you said, I think with A Portrait of Madness, it would be tricky unless you had a lot of backtrack kind of stuff going on, which, as you said, I think, kind of takes the magic out of the live performance away to some degree.
Yeah. Well, it's, I had, you probably heard it on when I was with Wayne, because of course with Wayne, when we started at the very beginning and went through my entire history.
Yeah.
But I had a band and a project with my wife called Fire Sphere, and that was a very big stage production, and we had to stem everything because it was so orchestrated. And we had video going on behind us and all the songs, and had these in between videos linking songs together, and big stage production. But it was very, very difficult because we had to have a guy that came with us to every show, that had to run the computer and keep everything running smoothly. And of course, the drummer had in-ears, because we had to go with the click track, and he's got to play with the stems and keeping us in time. And it was fun, and I enjoyed it, but sometimes it was just such a hassle. You couldn't, there's, like, say, no spontaneity. You couldn't just, like the guitar player couldn't just maybe extend a solo or ad-lib something or whatever. It had to be the same all the time, every show. And sometimes it was, it kind of got, could get old. But so I've had the experience doing something like that. That was the first time I'd ever been in a project where stems were involved and all this program stuff and all this other things going on. I'd never done that before, and so it took some getting used to for me.
I would imagine.
But it worked out. It was good. That band built a big following too, there in Florida. And then pandemic hit, and that was it. That was the death of Fire Sphere.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it was, like visually and sonically for the audience, it was probably spectacular. But as you said, it's, you're very, kind of in these tight, strict boxes almost, where you, as you said, there's no spontaneity with it. I mean, I would imagine that could get old after a while. As a musician and as a creative person, I'm sure that sometimes was frustrating.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. And yeah, vocally, I could kind of uh ad lib here and there in some of the songs. I could get away with it vocally. But even then still I had to, the main meat of the vocals had to stay the same. And I couldn't kind of go out of the box, outside of the box, so to say, in that. But we wore costumes, and the band had a whole backstory. We didn't go by our real names. It was almost like, kind of like Ghost, before Ghost became real big. Or I don't want to say Slipknot, because we didn't wear masks or anything like that, but we all wore certain costumes that went with our particular character. Each character had a big backstory. So that, like I say, it was just a big production. But I'll tell you, later, if you remember, if you'll send me your mailing address, and I'll shoot you a Firesphere CD.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to check that out. That would be really cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah, it sounds fascinating. So let's change gears a little bit. And if you don't mind, like let's take a ride in the Wayback Machine. And I was curious about your kind of the beginnings, of Ken Pike as a musician. Like what was the impetus of that? Did you come from a musical family? Like how did that all start for you?
Musically, for me, when I was about 7 years old, my grandmother had this old upright piano, and at 7, I would get up there and plink around on the piano, and pick out, songs that I'd heard, and I'd try to find the notes and stuff, and on the piano. So that, I think, is where music entered my life, personally. Now, my dad was he had a wonderful voice. Back in the 40s, he actually sang. He was in the Air Force during the war, and he would sing at the like the officers clubs and stuff. And he sang with like Tommy Dorsey and some of the bands. So he was a crooner, I guess is what they called him back then.
Yeah,
kind of like opera and stuff. And he had an incredible voice. So I think that's where I get my ability to sing, from my dad. But no one played instruments or anything like that that I know of in my family. Well, that's not quite true. My grandfather, my mom's dad, he played a wicked banjo.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of the South. So he played a banjo, but so maybe that's where I get my guitar stuff. I don't know. But so anyway, 7 years old, started plunking around on piano. Then as I got older, a little bit older, I was probably about 12, 13 years old, and I wanted to learn an instrument. And first I thought drums, but my parents were going to have nothing to do with drums in the house. So that went out the door. And my sister's best friend gave me an old beat up classical gut string guitar, and it had a little bit of warp neck. And my parents got me one of them beginners chords book. It was real popular back then, dare I say, in the 70s, and show my age. And so I started teaching myself, to play guitar. And I eventually progressed to, I started, I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but what really made me want to be a musician, to write songs, to really pursue music was I got into, of course, at the time, the Beatles. And and I'm still a big Beatles fanatic. And I wanted to sing and play guitar like John Lennon. So I started teaching myself Beatles songs and teaching myself by listening to his playing, trying to mimic his rhythm style. He did some incredible rhythms. Most people don't even realize what a good guitar player he was. Yeah. And then of course singing like that. So I've always been good at mimicking singers. So I could sing at that time as a young teenager, I could sound just like John Lennon. And so that's what really got me pursue music. And eventually I started getting into hard rock and into bands like Styx and Foreigner and Boston and bands like that. So then I wanted an electric guitar and an amp. And fortunately my parents got me an electric. We went to the music store and I picked out an electric guitar, and it seemed like the first one I got was a candy apple red Fender. Cool. And a big, I think it was an acoustic amp, big giant amp. And that got me going on the electric guitar. And then I got a distortion pedal when they were so big, back then. And so I could put distortion on, and that started me on that route. And playing wise, and vocally, I progressed from sounding like John Lennon to wanting to sound like Dennis DeYoung of Styx, because I was a major Styx fan. So I started mimicking Dennis DeYoung, and that's when I started getting the vibrato tremolo in my voice, getting going on. Up until then, I sound like John Lennon, and working on my range, starting to sing a little bit higher. And looks like we're back.
Yeah, the video got better all of a sudden.
Yeah. Wow, cool. Okay, yeah. So I can't pick my nose anymore. Yeah, but so that propelled me vocally. Then I got into heavy metal with Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, the new wave, British heavy metal, and Saxon, bands like that. And then I wanted to start singing like that, so I started incorporating the higher ranges and the metal screams and stuff that they were doing. Then I discovered Queensryche, the EP, and That's All She Wrote. It's like I heard Queensryche, I heard Jeff Tate, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I love this operatic, clean, high, powerful voice, and that's what I wanted to do. So I started mimicking Jeff Tate, and got it. I don't think I sound as much like him now as I did then in the 80s. When I was constantly singing along with every Queensryche album that came out. I learn every song and to sing with him. And so the first band, well, not the first band, but the band in the 80s, Malachi, that I was in, I sounded a lot like Jeff Tate. And that I still, that's just how I sing now. So that's over the years is my shtick, I guess you could call it. And it used to be cool. I mean, I used to really like having people compare me, oh man, you sound like Jeff Tate, man. Because I mean, yeah, if I'm going to be compared to somebody, yeah, okay, that is a compliment. But over the years, honestly, it gets tiresome. It's like, I mean, I created the monster, but it's like I'm not Jeff Tate, and I don't sing exactly like him, but I have that resonance or whatever this in the weird little things he does.
Hmm.
I incorporate it into my vocal style. But sometimes, it's like, yeah, as soon as somebody, when I first heard your album, and I was like, Queensryche, yeah, it's like you did. Um, so, but like I said, I created the monster, and I've had to live with it. And the next Absolon album, because I'm going to be singing higher, is probably I'm going to probably sound a lot more like Jeff Tate than I did on this new one. So the higher I sing, the more like him I sound. So anyway,
Interesting. You
so
mentioned, I wanted to kind of circle back. You talked about when you were younger and kind of emulating, John Lennon and then emulating Dennis DeYoung. And I was curious, like in terms of like there's some not really narrative passages, but there's voice work on the last album that like characters, voice. Is that you? Are you the doctor? And okay, cool. I figured so, but yeah, I wanted to ask that. Yeah, with the English accent, and yeah, that's very cool.
yes, I was trying to do my best English accent, Dr. Smythe.
Yeah,
You know, um, I don't know. There was one review. It's like I've gotten half and half. I've gotten some really good reviews, and then I've gotten some really, really bad
really.
reviews. And there was one review, this guy he tore the whole album up. I mean, there was no aspect of the album other than he liked the concept. It was an interesting story. There was no aspect of the album that he liked. He didn't like the graphics. He didn't like the songs. He hated my voice.
Really?
And it's like, obviously, Ken Pike is the one putting on a fake British accent, and it's cheesy. And I mean, this guy just tore it up. I mean, I was laughing reading the whole thing. I was just laughing. Wow, you really didn't like it, did you?
Yeah.
But but it's okay. I don't really, I don't put a lot. I learned back in the Malachi days. I learned to take reviews, good or bad, with a big grain of salt. That any press is good press, good or bad. It's getting your name out there. Because we mostly got really good reviews with Malachi, our first couple of albums. Got really, really good reviews, but there were some really bad ones. I had one that said I sounded like a heavy metal version of Ethel Merman.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so there was some, and I would get angry. I'd read some of these bad reviews, and like I said, mostly they were all good, but I'd read some of the bad ones and I'd get angry. And our manager at the time, he took me aside, and said, Ken, why are you letting this bother you? Who gives a crap what this one person thinks?
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own opinion. These critics and you don't know if this particular critic is what kind of music they're into. He may hate this kind of music anyway, but he's stuck having to review it. It'd be like me trying to review, I don't know, Opeth or some black metal. I can't stand that music. I just cannot stand screaming black death, doom metal. But obviously, there's a lot of people who do. But if I had to review something like that, I don't know how I could review it because I don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to say, the vocals suck because it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I learned back then, read reviews, take them for what they're worth, and move on. It's what counts is what the audience thinks, what the person buying the album or listening to it, like you.
Yeah.
You like it. Well, the next guy, like I said, may listen to it and go, this sucks. So you just take it with a grain of salt and move on. So I don't take reviews too seriously.
Yeah, I always struggled with reviews, like reading, as a kid, like in high school or or younger, even, reading Rolling Stone magazine and like these critiques of albums, and I was like, who are these people? Like, do they actually like this style of music? And yeah, I mean, and it's funny when you go back and see some of the reviews of, albums that became iconic. I'm reading a book right now, a biography about Freddie Mercury. I'm a big Queen fan.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're talking about, there's reviews like Rolling Stone and these other magazines, English magazines, and they are ripping these albums apart, and which
Yep.
have become like these huge iconic songs. It's like,
Yep.
wow, like that person must feel like an idiot now. Like,
That's what our manager, that's what he told me at the time. He actually worked with the police, the band, the police,
Oh wow.
and he actually worked with, I want to say Paul McCartney at one time for a while.
Wow.
But he was telling me then, he said, Ken, look, you go back and look at some of the bands that are legendary bands, and he pointed out Queen. And he's talked about how Queen, when they first came out and their first few albums, just got sacked.
Yeah.
The critics hated everything that they did. They hated Freddie Mercury's voice. And you're talking about Queen, who's huge now, and heck, I even go, but you read some stuff about Todd LaTorre, who sings for Queens right now, and he talks about how when he first started singing in Crimson Glory, that he just got ripped.
Really?
The ripped his voice. He's
Really?
got a great voice.
Yeah, he's an amazing vocalist.
Yeah, so I look at that, and that's why I'm able just to say, you don't like my voice, well, it's just not your cup of tea, whatever. Okay, cool. But it's somebody's cup of tea.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're an amazing vocalist. So.
Well, I do appreciate that. And the other thing the manager said, he said, Ken, think of it this way. There's, how many billions of people on the planet? If 1 million people buy your album, like what you do, and I thought, at the time, I thought, you know what? You're totally right. Who cares what this critic says?
Right.
About that person buying the album, So, yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to go like way down that road,
No, it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. It's I do want to you mentioned Malakaya, and I was curious about how did you end up, so that was in Los Angeles, so
Yeah.
you grew up in the South. How did you get to California? What's that story? How did you get to California and end up joining Malakaya?
Well, getting to California is actually very simple and short. I was born in North Carolina. All my family, all the way back to like 17 something, was from North Carolina, some in Virginia, migrated from Germany and Luxembourg, and we're Germanic countries. When I was about 3, I think I was 3 years old, my folks decided that they wanted to move to Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
So they, pulled up stakes, and me and my sister, she's about 7, 8 years older than me, and moved to Los Angeles. So we moved to Los Angeles, and so I was already there when it came time, many, many, many years later, to join Malachi.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Now I do have to ask, because I think this is an interesting story too. So when I watched the interview that you did with Wayne, and hopefully you're comfortable talking about this. So Malakaya was a Christian, or as some people call it, white metal band. And you've, and you were the vocalist for this band, but you've also stated that you were not religious. So I thought that was really fascinating. And I was curious about, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm like, why did you join that band?
No, it's a good question, and I have no problem talking about it. I've talked about it a lot. So, I was raised, like I said, I was raised in a traditional Southern household in the South. You know, most everyone's is a Southern Baptist.
Hmm.
So I was raised in a Southern Baptist household. Went to church every Sunday, went to Bible study every Wednesday for pretty much all my youth. So come there, whenever I can't remember what year it was now, I joined Malachi. I want to say it was like 83 or 84 or something like that. But when I first saw the the ad for auditions for Malachi, they had in there that, you know, it's a Christian metal band in the vein of, you know, like Stryper, because Stryper was, you know, hitting it really big at that, taken off at that time. So the door was open for all of a sudden all these Christian metal bands started, you know, popping up all over the place, trying to get in that Stryper door. And so I was like, you know, at that time, it's kind of hard to explain. At that time, I was still technically a Christian, but I had already started moving away from it. I had already started kind of having all the doubts and stuff that people have at some point, I guess. Not everyone, but some. But I was like, okay, well, it's cool. I want to get in a band. I had been auditioning and couldn't get in a band. I was like, okay, I want to play. I want to sing. I want to get out there again. So I auditioned, and they asked me to be in the band. And I joined the band, and immediately started writing songs for the band. And so I guess, you know, as time progressed, the whole Christian thing for me, you know, I felt it was really becoming a facade, because I was just really moving away from it. I mean, you know, religion in general. I was just at a point where, you know, I just didn't believe in any of it, whether it be, you know, Christianity or Buddha or Islam or, you know, whatever. I just didn't believe any of it. And so I was already starting to move away from it. But I continue putting on, you know, a face, because I'm playing in a Christian metal band, you know. And so that went on, you know, for I was with the band, I want to say 4 years. And when I quit, and we did a lot. You know, we put out our EP. We put out our first full-length album. Got great reviews, and we really had. We're building a big audience and getting really popular. And a lot of people knew who we were. Today, even today, people still know who Malachi. And but towards the end, there was just, you probably, you know, you heard it with my interview with Wayne, but towards the end there was just a lot of internal strife that goes on, you know, with bands, and things start happening within bands, and people start getting kind of agitated with each other and all that kind of stuff. But that was part of it, and then the other part of it was I was just really tired of being expected to write songs that had some religious overtones or connotation to them, you know, having to put Jesus or God or something about, you know, the end times or my faith. And, you know, I was really got tired of it. I wanted to write songs that just meant something,
you
know. And I ended up writing a song that ended up on a compilation album, California Metal 2. It was called Runaway. It was the first cut on the first side. And it was just just a song. It had nothing to do with Christianity or God or nothing. It was just a song. And it ended up being one of the more popular songs on that compilation album. But so all this stuff is, you know, boiling up. And I finally decided, you know, I can't I can't continue to put up with all this internal strife, driving 2 hours one way to rehearsal, 3 nights a week, and we were gigging constantly, um, and then putting on this face, and then having to interact with Christian people who wanted to, how to question my faith. They come up and, it's like, well, why are you wearing that black cross? Why are your fingernails black? Why are you wearing that gothy looking, that's kind of demonic. It's kind of like the devil. It's like, dark and satanic. It's like, no, it's a stage outfit. I just wear the stage. I wear jeans and t-shirts off stage. I don't dress like this.
All right.
And I don't paint my finger black. I mean, heck, I was a cop, at the time, so I couldn't.
Oh, really?
But and so I got really, really tired of that, being questioned all the time, and from Christian folk. So that I just decided that enough. I can't do this anymore. And so I ended up bailing before we did our third album, which I look back now and I regret that, because we had some great songs ready for that third album. If we'd done it, it could have, it's like I told Wayne, it one of two things would have happened. Either it was going to be the album that was going to put us on the map and up into the next level, at least, kind of maybe even the Striper level, or because heavy metal, grunge come on about the same time, and heavy metal went the way of the dinosaur, so it wouldn't have done anything. It would just died on the vine. So, we'll never know, because I was young, hot-headed, stupid, and I let my emotions talk. And I should have just, I look back now and I should have just kept my mouth shut, kept on trudging along, do that third album, and then decide what I wanted to do. But yeah, I was like, no, I'm done. So,
well, you got to be true to yourself, right? I mean, and it sounds like you weren't very happy, and 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 then so
no, towards the end there, I definitely I wasn't happy, and there was just a lot of issues growing between me and the bass player. The bass player created the band. It was his baby. And I think over time he started getting, I don't want to say jealous, but I think he started feeling like it was becoming the Ken Pike show, because people thought of Malachi or talked about Malachi. I think, oh, that's that band with that guy. The singer sounds like Jeff Tate. They sound like Queen's Right, and I think he was getting really tired of that, because this is band.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, I'm the singer.
Yeah, you're the front. Yeah, you're the front man.
What am I gonna? I can't help that. It's like, you're the bass player, and technically it's usually the singer and then the guitarist, that gets most of the adulation and stuff. And so that was causing a lot of, there's a bunch of other stuff too, but anyway. So that was the end of Malachi. I think they lasted 4 more months. They tried a female singer, and then that was it. So
yeah, I think I saw that, and I don't even know how I came across this. Just recently, I think at least I think it was Red Sunshine was re-released at some point, like very recently. I think maybe on vinyl or something. I just remember seeing that. I'm like, whoa, that's wild. So there seems to be a little bit of a resurgence, I guess.
You're talking about, Red Sunrise.
Or Red Sunrise, yeah, sorry.
Bill of Rocks Records. No Life Till Metal Records is part of subsidiary, or he's a partner with Rocks Records. But at any rate, they put out the Absolon Complete Anthology.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it was amazing what he did. It was like, I think a 2 CD. And Red Sunrise and our first EP, Under the Blade, was remastered, and the song Runaway from the compilation was put on there and remastered, and had like I want to say like a 16-page booklet, a big old booklet with all kinds of pictures and liner notes. And
Oh, wow.
then the CD had what I has the, I have to go pull it out, but the video from a festival that we did, like I want to say 1987 or something like that. And then it had a whole bunch of demos on there that we're going to record, but of course hadn't recorded, but we had done pre-production demos and stuff. But a lot of good, yeah, a lot of good stuff. And I think they did put out a 7-inch or something. They put out, I think they did a vinyl on Red Sunrise too.
Okay.
I think both Red Sunrise and Unplayed. So, you know, so hey, Malachi is still out there. I mean, 30 some years later, and
Yeah.
people still buy it. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
I don't even look like that anymore.
Yeah, say yeah,
Like, wow.
you don't even look like the same person, like
No, I look totally different. But then, hey, I was only 20-some years old then, so
yeah, you were a kid.
quite a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was a baby. So yeah.
I
Okay.
let's switch gears a little bit. I want to ask you about, I think this is pretty fascinating. You and your wife are ghost hunters. Correct?
Oh, well, went down my Sunday pipe. Yeah, we have a paranormal investigations business.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're it's called Dark House Paranormal Investigations.
Nice.
And we even have our own little YouTube show called The Dark House, and people can go there and check out some of the investigations we've done.
Cool. I know your website, it states that your wife is the believer and you're the skeptic. I think from what I remember. So I was curious about, one, how you both got involved doing this. And then also, are you still a skeptic? Are you a believer? Like where do you stand at this point?
Well, I would say that I'm more of a semi-skeptic than a full-on skeptic, because I have had experiences in my life, mostly when I was young,
Okay.
that were unexplainable experiences, and with like what they call paranormal today. My wife, she's actually a medium, and she's had all kinds of experiences throughout her life. I mean, some really bizarre, scary experiences. So that's why she's the believer. But I think I'm probably less a skeptic now than maybe I was. A lot of my reasons for being skeptical is just having been in law enforcement for so many years, and so my analytical side of my brain takes over. You know, you connect dots and you look at things from a real life standpoint, you know,
Right.
and not the X-Files. So basically, my job is I'm lead investigator, but I attempt to debunk things,
Okay.
you know. And our thing is if it can't be debunked, if I can't find some reason why that thing happened, then it very well could be, you know, paranormal in nature. At least it's unexplainable,
Right.
you know. Yeah. So that's kind of my role. Um, and then, of course, on investigations, and I do that. I debunk a lot of stuff that, you know, a certain sound, and they think, oh, it's a paranormal, and I found no, it isn't. It's the air conditioning kicking on, or it's the air vent or something, you know, making that weird sound.
Yeah.
It sounds scary, you know. It's not a ghost. Not
Yeah. Just an old house settling or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we've in our investigations, we've had a lot of unexplainable things happen that, you know, it's just like, I don't know. I can't explain that. It was weird. I would call it paranormal, you know. I mean, the house we own is haunted, so you know, what can I say?
Yeah.
But
Have you had any experiences where, like, you know, you're investigating something and like just something really creepy or whatever, and you're just like, I have to get the fuck out of this house. I'm out. I'm gone. Have you had any of those experiences?
We've had some a few scary, frightening experiences. Again, because of my profession for 30 some years, was, you know, I very little scares me. I don't scare easily. And I rarely back down. You know, I even if I'm scared, I won't back down. But there's been a few things. Our very first investigation, we investigated a motel room where her name was Eileen. I can't remember the last name now. That's sad. She was one of them, modern America's first female serial killers.
Oh, wow.
And they made a movie about it. And she was staying with her lover, her lesbian lover, in this motel room for a few months. And while she was staying there, she was out killing. She killed like 7 men, murdered them. And so she'd go back to that room, of course, and, you know, clean up and all that. And so the room was purportedly haunted. And so we went and did an investigation. We rented the room and the room next to it, actually. And we had a lot of strange things happen in that room. One strange thing that happened was we set up a static camera at the front of the room by the window. And we left to go get something to eat. We hadn't eaten yet, so we were going to go get a pizza or something like that. And so later on, when we were reviewing all the footage and the audio and everything, we get to that part where we're not there. The light was off when we left the room, and no one had the key to the room but us. And the light and ceiling fan suddenly comes on by itself. And we had set up, I don't know if you know, ever heard of a REM pod. It's a electromagnetic field thing. It's a round box. It's got an antenna on it and then lights. And the idea is if something gets close to the antenna and it breaks the electromagnetic field, then it lights up. Well, we had it sitting on the nightstand next to the bed. So when the light came on, that thing's going crazy. I mean, it's just flashing like a Christmas tree.
Wow.
And it lasted for, I don't know, about 35 seconds or so. And then the light turned off and the ceiling fan turned off. And the REM pod stopped going off. And now there's no way somebody, you know, like maybe the manager or something could have come into the room, because where the camera was set up, you would have seen somebody come into the room.
Right.
And there was a big picture above the bed with a shiny glass frame. And you would have seen, if somebody came in that door, you would have seen in the picture, glass picture, and nothing. So nobody came in the room. It just turned itself on and off by itself. And as we dug deeper into that particular footage, we noticed in the glass down in the corner, there's what they call shadow figures in, the paranormal parlance, and you can see it. I mean, it's not a body; it's like a shadow figure, and it's moving. It moves just across the glass and then disappears.
Oh wow.
That really freaked us out. It wasn't a human body. It wasn't like I say, a reflection of somebody in the room, because that definitely they would have had to pass in front of the camera.
Yeah.
The, you know, and then at the end of that investigation, this woman hated men. I mean, she literally hated men. She said it in her trial. She hated men, and obviously she killed them. Right towards the end, I just suddenly started having stabbing pain in my lower back. It's like somebody was just sticking a knife in my back. I finally had to sit down in the bed. It was hurting so bad. And finally I told my wife, said, look, we got to be done. I can't, it's killing me. I mean, I was ready to double over.
Wow.
And so we wrapped it up, and I'm dying. And I had no back pain on the way up there. Up until that point, no back pain. When we got in the car and started driving back, I don't think we were 30 minutes on the road. It was totally gone.
Huh.
No back at all. So I believe Eileen wanted me gone. She was tired of me being there. So she was letting me know, you got to go. So that was pretty wild. And then another investigation, we do recording, audio recording, and then we go back, listen to all the audio, and we caught a number of different disembodied voices at this location that you didn't hear with your own ears at the time. But we caught one that really freaked me out. It was a female voice, and it clearly says, "Ken, come in."
Oh, weird.
I said, it said my name. It very clearly, "Ken, come in." I'm like, oh, okay. That kind of freaked me out. They have a disembodied voice saying my name and telling me, "Yeah, come in."
Yeah. No, don't go in, Ken. Don't go in.
Oh, we were in the room, so I don't know why he was telling me to come in, but it didn't sound menacing. It was welcoming. It was just a female voice saying, "Hey, Ken, come on in."
Wow, that's wild.
So yeah, there's been other things. Those are just two that pop into my head, but so you just can't be, when you go out and do these things, you can't let fear or being scared enter your mind, because you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You're going in looking for a spirits or a ghost or whatever it might be, so you get it. I mean, that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
But I think you asked how we got involved.
Yeah. How did that start?
Well, I was kind of into watching the ghost hunting shows, like on the Travel Channel, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and whatever was on. And one night, my wife came in and sat down on the couch next to me and was watching one of the shows with me, and she just thought it was really cool. She's like, we could do that, because she's a medium. She senses. She freaks me out sometimes when she senses things, and then they happen. So we talked about it, and it's like, well, we could try it. It might be kind of fun. Get some stuff, a couple of pieces of equipment, or tape player or something, and go find some place that's supposed to be haunted and just see what happens.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. we bought a couple of pieces of equipment to start out with, and went and we bought, you know, like a couple of pro GoPros, and you know, and a few RIM pods, the EMF detectors, and a good handheld tape player, and I don't know, there was some other thing that we bought. I want to say a tri-field thing, and then we went and did that first investigation and had a blast, and it was really cool. And so then we started buying equipment, and almost, well, I'm not even going to say how much later, how much we invested. But most of the equipment you see on these ghost hunting shows, we probably have it.
No.
So we have a lot of, if the phone wasn't, if it was stopped, wasn't freezing up, I could just move and the phone just to the side, and you could see all the cases of equipment I have over here on the side. But yeah, so that's how it started, and it was just going to be, you know, kind of fun thing to do. And then we liked it, and we just kind of took it a little more seriously, and
Nice.
started going out and doing more. And then we put together a little show, and my wife edits the shows and composes the music for the shows, and it's fun.
Nice.
Not for, but it's fun, you know.
Oh yeah, I bet. I would imagine it's got to be pretty exciting. So do you have? I would imagine you have, you know, people contacting you saying that, hey, will you come check out our place, check out our house, check out this building? You know, I would imagine that's kind of how it, you know, especially once it's you know, once it got popular. And yeah, that's cool. That's really interesting. You said something, and this has nothing to do with ghosts at all, or ghost hunting, but you said something that you mentioned that you were a cop for 30 years. And that was one question that popped in my head at the time. I was curious about, as a professional musician and as a cop for 30 years, did you ever have, like, you know, audience members like, hey, you arrested me? Or, you know, did that ever come? Has that ever come up? Or, you know, like, people recognize you as like I know who this guy is.
you would, common sense, I guess, would dictate that. But believe it or not, no. Not that I know of, anyway. I mean, there may have been someone in the audience that I had arrested at one point. See, I was a street cop for 1982 to 1990, and then I joined the Department of Justice and became a federal cop, and went to work for the Bureau, and that's what I did for 24 years, and then retired from. But no, never. I did have one. I got stuck in between a grocery store and check out, and there's people in front of us checking out. We were next, and then this guy behind me, I looked at him and he looked at me, and I don't, you know, I didn't remember every single person that I arrested or I wrote a ticket, or, you know,
Right.
It's impossible. But I was looking at him, he looked really familiar. And then he said, hey, Officer Pike, right? And I'm like, oh crap. And I'm like, yeah. He said, yeah. And yeah, I can't remember his name. And I said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. You arrested me. Yeah. I said, I did. Well, was I cool? But I was like thinking, okay, I didn't like have to beat this guy or anything, did I?
Right.
You know? And he's like, no, you were really cool, man. You're probably one of the coolest cops I'd ever, you know, encounters, which led me to believe, yeah, you've been arrested a time or two.
Yeah, sounds like it.
You know, and I was thinking, oh, good. You know, of course I had my gun, you know, and stuff with me under my jacket. So, but yeah, that's really the only time I've ever had run into somebody that either I arrested or dealt with, even on the federal level. Yeah, it was just for a second there, it was kind of a little scary, because I'm with my then wife, and I'm thinking, okay, is this guy gonna go like,
Yeah.
nuts? He's gonna pull out a weapon. I got my hand kind of already on my hip, and I'm thinking, am I gonna get in like a shootout right here in the, but it turned out okay. I was cool when I arrested him.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that's wild. That's what I always wondered
yeah.
with, like, Matt Barlow of, X, he used to be in Iced Earth, and now Ash is the Berries, because he was a cop as well.
Mm.
And I always wondered, yeah, like, did anybody ever recognize him as a cop? Like, hey, aren't you from Iced Earth? Like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think that, especially as much as we played everywhere, and we mostly, Malachi, we mostly played all the clubs
Yeah.
on Sunset Strip, and then we played, like the Waters Club and Palomino or whatever that other big club is. But and you think, yeah, that you might, but the thing is when we played, I mean, I wore, I was in metal garb,
Mm.
and we wore a little makeup and stuff like that. So I probably didn't even look anything like I did when I was not on stage.
Right. Right.
I probably looked, pretty, on different. On stage, I had because I had the short hair in the band, but I had my hair all kind of tousled up and stuff like that. But then, of course, when I wasn't on stage, I had my hair either slicked back or whatever. I look like a cop.
Yeah.
You're typical cop. So that could be why too.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wearing a big black cross and a ruffled shirt, pirate shirt. Yeah.
You said, yeah, I wasn't wearing, painting, like say, painting fingernails black and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
A jeans, t-shirt, and a lot of time a windbreaker or some sort of jacket. So I had my gun and my hair. I say slick back, and I look like a typical cop. So yeah, just good. I'm glad it never happened.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That'd be kind of funny. Yeah, that's cool. Well, Ken, this has been an absolute pleasure and an honor talking to you.
Ah,
So I've really enjoyed this a lot. And I apologize for the technical issues we're having with the video. I don't know what's going on with Zoom tonight, but
yeah.
this has been great. And for those of you watching, if you look in the description below, there are links to the Absolon website, as and you're definitely going to want to pick, if you don't have it already, pick up this fantastic album. You can also go straight to, I think I did this. I think you did straight to No Life Till Metal Records website. You can purchase it there. I think you have a Bandcamp page too, I believe. So
Yeah, we do.
by the way, or all the major streaming sources as well. But killer album. This is great. And I can't wait to hear the new material. Very excited for that in the coming year. But again, thank you, Ken. This has been an absolute blast.
Well, I sincerely appreciate you having me on, and thank you very much for the kind words. Makes an old man's heart happy.
Nice.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you, sir.
All righty. I appreciate it.